Oh, hi, here we are again. I'm Rosie Jameson and I'm in sunny Rutland, not. And we're going to be cooking today some cranberry relish all ready for Christmas, but it's not just for Christmas. It's actually delicious at any time. So I hope that you'll love this recipe and actually come to make it often and have it throughout the year. We can't keep everything for special times. Um, Cranberries are funny things, aren't they? This is the best time to buy them, by the way. They come in around about this time into the shops fresh. So if you are going to want to make some more cranberry dishes of some sort, because there are other cranberry relish recipes besides the cranberry relish we have at Christmas, grab some bags and pop them in the freezer, and then you can use them whenever you want to. It's a bit like Seville oranges. There's only ever one harvest. It's never continuous. It never comes back later in the year or earlier in the year or any other time. They harvest them because this is their time, and they are transported to the processing plants where they're all washed and bagged and everything. And they're distributed to either the manufacturers that make juice or for the fresh produce market. They're a marginal crop in as much as they grow between rivers and land. So anywhere where it's a bit sort of wet and boggy, they absolutely love. And they grow very low down. They spread out across the ground. I think they come from the botanically from ericaceous plants like heather, but they're most closely aligned to bayberries and the Swedish lingonberry and things like that. And they grow on these little tiny sort of creeping bushes. I mean, absolute dream to harvest, you can imagine. And I think they grow mostly in North America and Canada in quite cold areas. And I think they have sort of bit like big cones that they cone them off of the bushes, and they all get put into the river. Then they have big wooden sort of booms that they drag all the berries down to the processing plant, gathering up the sort of areas along the way that people have been harvesting them, and they all go for processing. And the processing plants are adjacent to the river, as you can imagine. Over the years they've grown up, and that's what they do. So once they're harvested, that's it. So if you see them fresh in the shops in November, grab them and freeze them, and then you can make other things at other times. I think we've come to eat it with turkey. I think it's all to do with Thanksgiving, which is in November in America, and it's didn't the founding fathers have turkeys given to them by the Native Americans or something to stop them starving? I'm not entirely sure, but naturally the berries would have been around at the same time, and that's traditionally why we eat cranberry relish with turkey. But you can have it with all sorts of things. You don't have to just restrict it to that. But all these traditions and all the things that we do all have an origin somewhere if you dig back far enough. They're very high in vitamin C. They've got antioxidant, they've got vitamin K, they've got crazy copper, which we're very much dependent on, and most modern people are slightly deficient in copper. We only need traces of it, but we don't even get that from our very sort of poor diet, really. And manganese as well. So they're very, very good for us. And I think us ladies mostly know cranberry juice from various shall we say, infections that we suffer from, that it is supposed to help with that very much. So fortunately, I don't suffer from that, so, or haven't done yet. So, but I know lots of people love cranberry juice anyway, or have it for that reason, because it just sort of calms everything down. I looked into this actually just before coming into the kitchen to do this, because I was curious. And I've written it down so that I don't get it wrong, because I was curious as to what is in those cranberry juices. Yeah, that's a plural, isn't it? Because they are quite a tough berry, really. They're quite tart and quite pippy, and you know, a bit of an ask really to have too much of it. and I was interested in what they're sweetening it with, if anything. And interestingly, the Ocean Spray, which is the brand, isn't it? And they are in the area, they grow, they're all family-owned farms that farm the berries naturally. And most of it goes to Ocean Spray, who produce it and present it in various forms. You know, you can have dried ones, which are actually quite nice. You can have the juice, you can have fresh, you can, you know, all sorts of things. But I was looking at the Ocean Spray, and it says absolutely no artificial additives, no colouring, no nothing. This is for the juice, all the juices I've been looking at, and no added sugar. Now, I'm always wary when I see that phrase, because it is truthful if they haven't added sugar, but inevitably they've added something else instead, a sweetener of some sort. Now, on the face of it, it looks okay. They've added stevia extract. And stevia, of all the, not artificial sugars, because it's not artificial, but of all the sugars that are added that aren't actual sugar, stevia is probably the best. But it depends on the stevia, because stevia extract, which is added to Ocean Spray, isn't the same as stevia leaf extract. And stevia leaf extract is like an essential oil. You buy it in a little bottle about this big, and it's about £8 or something, and you use it sort of drop by drop. You can, if you grow stevia, use the leaves to sweeten things, but the stevia extract that is used commercially to sweeten things is actually something called rhodioxide A, which is known as Reb A, and a mixture of erythritol. And that is what is used commercially. It is a sort of a manufactured stevia, but it probably hasn't been too near a stevia plant. The stevia plant, by the way, is from the chrysanthemum family, which is interesting to me. Now, there is another product. So that's the no added sugar, but that's as far as I'm taking that, because I don't know which stevia they've used, but given the size of their production, I wouldn't have thought it's the little £8 bottle. However they buy it. Truvia, which is probably another product that you've heard of, is also a mixture of Reb A and erythritol. I would only say about erythritol, again, it is a very good sugar substitute that is used widely now in processed food, because it looks like sugar and it's got a good, what they call mouthfeel. There's no aftertaste. I don't think it has any calories. It's very, very popular with people, and it's very popular in processed food because it bakes and it isn't affected by heat. The only problem with it is it will kill your dog. If your dog happens to eat something with it in, as you know what dogs are like, it's very, very toxic to them, and you've got about 20 minutes, if you realise they've eaten whatever it is, to get them to the vet, and it's by no means certain that they would be saved. Even quite big dogs. Our vet here actually locally puts out leaflets every summer, early in the summer, door to door, to warn people, because erythritol as a sweetener is very popular in barbecue sauce and tomato ketchup and things like that, because it just is a very good in the mixture. But of course, barbecue sauce wrapped around a beef burger is exactly what a dog would love, especially if they're at a party where people are leaving their plates all over the place with half-eaten food on while they get another drink, and before they know it, the dog's eaten the burger. So you have to be really, really careful with erythritol. I'm not going to go through all the sugar substitutes tonight because there won't be time, but I looked at Britvic cranberry juice, and that has sugar, actual sugar, it says, although that's, you can't actually believe that. necessarily, but that's how it's written anyway. It has saccharin and it has aspartame. I was quite surprised because aspartame, people have become very resistant to aspartame, so they have actually renamed it and altered the chemical structure slightly, and they've called it sucralose, which of course anything with an O's on it sounds sort of familiar and something that, oh, that's all right. It doesn't sound like a chemical. It's actually aspartame. It's just changed its overcoat to have a different name. Sainsbury's, no added sugar, has declared 7 grams of sugar per glass, although it's got no added sugar, but I doubt very much that they've managed to get that much sugar out of the dear old cranberry. But they can say no added sugar because they're adding sweeteners, which are, again, is sucralose, aspartame, and it's also coloured. It's got colouring in it. And I would have thought that the cranberry had enough colour of its own, but that is because they're using the cranberry concentrate to make it, and quite a large part of the cranberry juice in their Tetra Pak thing is actually water. Tesco, no added sugar, 5 grams per glass, but they don't list ingredients. Lidl is no added sugar, 27% water. It has cranberry concentrate, carrot concentrate, blackcurrant concentrate, flavouring, and the sweetener again is sucralose. If something is called, if they've managed to engineer an ingredient to be called a processing aid, they don't have to list it on the ingredients at all. So some of these modern processed products have all sorts of things in them that you've no idea is there because they aren't required to declare them because it's a processing aid. So, you know, we don't stand a lot of chance, but just briefly looking at those ingredients, it's quite a worrying picture, really. I could only find one that didn't really have anything other than cranberries in it, which is the Biona one. So just be careful is all I'm saying. We're going to stick to our dear old sugar here, and I will go into sugar over the week, so I'm going to keep on bringing the subject up because there's a lot to know and a lot to be wary of. But just start looking at your labels and look at them. Don't take it at face value. And I always think, as I've said before, the more writing it's got on a simple product, the less I want to even bother to read the ingredients, because if something's simple, you know from we've been doing this 2 or 3 weeks, the ingredients are minimal and we're making things that are delicious. They're making things that have to stay on the shelf for weeks and weeks and weeks and not change, never be any different every time they make it. And okay, that's a scenario that exists, but just be wary and aware of what is actually being sold to you. So I think we've got Freya cooking, we've got Alicia and one other lady. Who was the other lady? Helen, are you cooking? I think Alicia and I, we're going to make double the recipe, mainly because we're making up hampers. This makes about a couple of jars, 2 or 3 jars, which is fine for a family if you only want to use it at Christmas, and you know, that's it. That's why the recipe is small, because traditionally people don't want to make lots and lots of it. But I think it's delicious, and also it goes in my hampers, which I'm just about to make up for customers. So I shall use mine for that as well as Christmas. We've got our sugar, as usual. I've actually got some caster sugar here, but that's only because that's the only sugar I've got. So it says granulated in the recipe, and that's absolutely fine. You could get away with a unrefined granulated sugar. It wouldn't alter the colour very much if you prefer to use that. But again, don't use the muscovado like we use for the mincemeat, because it will make it all too dark, and the flavour will be overpowering, really. So I've got some caster sugar there, and tonight we're going to use red wine vinegar. We've used the cider several times, but we've got our nice red berries, and we're going the vinegar will enhance that colour. You can use any other vinegar, but I like to match it to the things that I'm making if I can. Increasingly, it's becoming difficult to find things, admittedly, but if we can't go out, we're on lockdown and things, you can't always get what you think you would prefer. So just that's what I'm using tonight, because I have it in stock. Then we've got our sea salt again, so our classic 3 preservatives that we're going to use. Standard things, easy to get normally, and easy to find and not expensive. I've also got some lovely pears. This is what I think makes this cranberry relish different from other people's or other recipes, because the pears and the orange take out the acidity and smooth it all out, so that you'll not don't get that catch in the back of your throat from something that's really, really tart. Oranges traditionally take out the acid in things. Oranges pair very well with things like rhubarb and things that are sort of tart on their own. They will smooth it out. I mean, they're very, very good for that sort of reason, but it's also very, very nice. You can taste it in the finished relish, very much so. So I've got my cranberries in the pan. I've got to remember to put double everything in, but you've all got your recipes anyway. Don't you forget either, Alicia. We'll help each other. Freya's asking if there are health benefits to unrefined sugar. It's hard to argue, I think, a health benefit for sugar these days. As I've said before, sucrose, which is what we use, is equal glucose and fructose molecules, and the human body can metabolize it. So in actual fact, the sugars that we use are not harmful to us, and they're not what are making us obese. And making preserves with sugar, when we come to eat them, we're not, generally speaking, eating big quantities of them. The unrefined is just, it's still the natural color, basically. Refining sugar, they take the color out, and I'm not entirely sure what they use to do that, I must admit. Hopefully nothing unpleasant. I must look into that. But as long as you stick to using sucrose, which is equal molecules of fructose and glucose, we're fine. What we want to steer away from is this stuff, the high fructose corn syrup, or glucose fructose. You want to avoid this because, as the name suggests, it's been produced from a waste material, which is corn stalks, which basically are rubbish. And as we've talked about before, cereals and things like that have hidden natural sugar. They sweeten as you eat them. But this is refined out of it, mainly because it's a big problem in America, all the waste of corn stalks. Plus, it makes a very, very cheap sweetener, but it's highly addictive. It alters the brain chemicals that control your eating. So it switches off the chemical, which I think is serotonin, which stops you when you feel full. It switches that off, and it's highly addictive and behaves like cocaine in the brain. So it makes you feel great for a while. I imagine that's what cocaine does. I don't know. But it also makes you crave more and more hits of this substance. It's in pretty much all processed food in quite high quantities, because it gets rid of it, because it's a product that is a bulking thing that, you know, they've got too much of. It makes the food processed through all the machinery and everything. It makes it addictive, so people get hooked on it and want more and more. And then in things like bread and pizzas and things like that, they have to add a ton of salt to mitigate all this sweetness. So you get a double whammy of problems. You can't metabolize this in the body, and it's stored as fat. The liver has to process it because the gut can't, and it's stored as fat around the internal organs, and sooner or later it will kill you. And it is, you get essentially sclerosis of the liver, but people whose relatives have died of this were objecting to the fact that they died of sclerosis of the liver because they were nearly always teetotal and drank gallons of Diet Coke, which has it in. And so they created a new illness to die of, which is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And you will see that time and time again. And the liver is so diseased it can't support life anymore. And that is, it's in all processed food. It's even in things like children's yogurts, the little tiny, what are they called?
Fromage frais.
Sorry?
Fromage frais?
Yeah, the little tiny yogurts you get for children. Cereals, it's in all the pizzas and all that sort of thing. Baby formula milk, not so much in this country, but in America where it's less regulated. And also, I've even found it in toothpaste. You know, keep looking. It will be on the label. They no longer put high fructose corn syrup. They will put glucose fructose, which again has got that O's on the end, which makes it sound benign and, oh yeah, that's just a sweetener. It isn't. It's highly toxic to us, and it's annoying that now the labelling laws have become so lax that they can just put sugar on and you've no idea what type of sugar you're eating. It used to be that you could only put sugar on if you were using actual sugar, but no food processing plant uses actual sugar. It's too expensive and it clogs everything up. So they don't, it's no point using that. So we've got some more kind of Roma. Could you just read the amount of ingredients? Yes, I will.
Thank you.
And so to long answer to your question about unrefined sugar. Unrefined is fine because it is glucose fructose, you know, the like sucrose, but unrefined. You need to steer away from fructose on its own. You can often see that in supermarkets in little packets, you know, fructose. Don't want that. And you need to steer away things like agave nectar, which is a nightmare of chemicals. And most of it hasn't ever been near an agave plant or an aloe vera plant. If you're worried about the border, I wouldn't buy any of those types of products in a supermarket. If you want to buy the kind of the juice of the agave plant as a sweetener, then buy it in a health food shop because they will have the proper thing. And the same with the stevia extract, because they won't go anywhere near all the kind of cost-cutting and money-saving, profit-creating scenario of the supermarket. Me, bitter. Next week, I'll try and remember to bring you a book, and I can give you the ISBN number of it, of Joanna Biveman's book, which is called Swallow This. And it's an expose of the food processing industry. But as I've said before, I have a friend who works in that industry, and she said if you buy processed food in a box, you're better off eating the box. So I'll leave that with you. Running through the ingredients,
Thank you.
we have 450 grams of cranberries. Roma, are you okay with grams? You don't want
No grams will be fine. Thank you.
Okay. 1 large orange, 225 grams, 225 grams of white sugar, caster, granulated or unrefined. Couple of pears. Around 200 mils of red wine vinegar. You'll see as we go through, it's not an exact science. 2 teaspoons of sea salt, and then a splosh of port at the end, should you so desire. So, yeah, Roma, let's put in the chat at the side. He's put the link for the recipe. That did you not receive it?
I must have missed it.
Yeah. Well, you can. He's put the link at the side that you can.
Okay, thank you.
It's also in my recipe site if you can't find it.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you.
It's annoying that supermarket comes 400-gram bags. Who's that? Judy. I wouldn't worry, Judy. Just use 400 grams. Put an extra bit of pear in or something. It's not. Again, you know, preserving is preserving what you have, not trying to make an exact recipe. It's a kind of a guide. You'll get as casual as me after a while. So, the first thing we're going to do is grab our orange. My orange is absolutely enormous, so I probably won't use all of this peel, it will be a bit too much. But so, you can, but don't take them right away because I will need them. So you need to pare off some of the skin as thinly as you can without slicing your thumb. And I'd say you want depends how much you like orange, really. Just clear it a bit so you can just leave it there because I'll need it. Put that in there. There we are, you can see now. I'm probably going to do about half of this orange. If you've got a smaller one, that's fine. So, about right. Smells lovely. And then, without getting too chefy about it, you want to take the peel and slice it across quite thinly into sort of shreds. As I've said before, I'm not Jamie Oliver. I'm not going down here at 100 miles an hour, and terrifies me when I see them chopping things on television. I know he cut his it wasn't Jamie Oliver, it was Chris Evans, wasn't it? He was at a show with James Martin and he was showing off, they were cooking something. It was a good food show in Birmingham. And we were there exhibiting when we heard all this fuss, and he apparently used one of James Martin's knives and nearly cut his finger off. And James Martin got hold of his hand and stuck it in a big tub of turmeric. And it stops the bleeding, evidently. But he was pretty shaken and in quite a lot of pain, but it didn't bleed. I hope they threw the turmeric away, but apparently that's a very good tip if you've got a cut, is to put some in a dish and stick the cup in it. Judy, would a zester work as well? Strangely, it doesn't. It's part of the character of the whole finished thing that you've got these shreds of orange. I mean, if you really don't want the shreds, then yes, you'll get the flavour in there. But it's sort of the look of it. So you do whatever you're happy with. There's absolutely no point making something if you don't feel like eating. And like I said about the orange, with all the little dimples in the skin, that is where all the oils are, and you can really you can all these little pits here. We've got little like little oil wells, and as you sort of press them, you can really smell the oil coming out. And this very valuable part of preserving is to make sure that you don't throw any of the citrus zest away. There's plenty of ways of preserving it, and we will cover that in other classes. What do we do to orange peel? Yeah. Can you see, Helen, what's happening with the peel? Or do you mean generally? Just takes a little while, but it's worth doing carefully, because you don't want great big pieces of peel. I'm actually grouping 2 or 3 together.
Smells good.
Mm. Yeah, you see all the oil on my fingers as well. How are you doing, Alicia? When you've shredded your peel, it can go into the pan with your cranberries. If you've got fresh cranberries, you don't need to turn the heat on yet, but I'm just going to turn mine on because mine are mostly frozen, so I don't want to get behind all of you. So how are we getting on? You nearly there, Freya? Yeah.
Yeah, very nearly done.
Yeah. Alicia? Oh, she's Ooh.
Rosie, I've got 600 grams of cranberries. Can I do the whole lot?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, great.
You all right, Alicia? Yeah.
She's muted.
Okay, yeah. So then we need to do the pears next. I'm going to start because I've got more to do because I've got double the recipe. I've actually got 3 quite big pears here, so I will use those. I won't use 4. I'll just use these 3. And I'm going to do like I do with the apples. Take the ends off. Go into my tub. I'm not just throwing them on the floor. Actually, I'm not doing what I do with the apples. I'm going to cut them down so they're easier to handle. And then I should take off the peel with my knife. But if you want to use a peeler, it's absolutely fine. I'm just hopeless with them. I end up scraping my knuckles with them. I don't know why. I've tried all sorts, but that goes down there. This hasn't got very much core in it. So, and then I'm going to cut it across. Just take out a bit of that fibre in the middle. Nice to see some lumpy bits. You don't want them too fine. for us. And as you do them, you can put them in the pan, otherwise they'll oxidize and go dark, which isn't a good look, really. We want them, if anything, to go nice and pink, but they'll probably stay fairly white. As with all of the best recipes, I expect this came about because somebody happened to have some pears and thought, oh, well, there's not much cranberry sauce there. I'll put these pears in, and it's probably made a new dish, you know, because it's very delicious with them in there. Just seems to smooth everything out beautifully.
Hello, Rosie. Sorry I'm late in joining you. I had to, I was on another meeting and it rather overran.
Who's that?
Caris.
Oh, Caris. Hello, Caris.
Yeah, hi. I'm not going to be cooking long because I couldn't get the cranberries. I've got
right, okay.
I've got some on order, so I'm hopefully we'll be able to do it when they arrive. I think they're coming next week.
You can catch up with the recording.
Yeah, I will do, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
They should be around about now. The fresh ones, or you know, some people have frozen ones. So you can go back over the recording and hear the beginning about cranberries, and then you won't miss anything.
Great, thank you.
Nice to see you. We're just at the shopping stage, so it's this is why people on the television always say, here's one I made earlier, because you don't want just a horrible silence while somebody chops up a lot of ingredients. Oh, it's a fiddly bit right at the top, isn't it? That's always so fine. I absolutely love pears, so. As long as they're not those sort of woolly fleshed ones, I like this sort that have got the nice juicy flesh. All right, last one. Did you say you've been making piccalilli, Elizabeth? Oh, she's not there at the minute.
I'm just unmuting myself. Yes, I did make piccalilli because my friend Jane Baker gave me some of the ingredients. Jane McClements, who's on here today.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Yes, she gave me some of the courgette and cucumber, I think it was, that ended up in piccalilli.
Lovely.
Because do you remember you taught me and my brother years ago how to do it? We have the day with you.
Well, I was just thinking that I think you did marmalade, didn't you, one time? But I had an idea that you'd done piccalilli.
I did marmalade with a lady who drove from Wales on a day that it snowed out of the blue.
Sorry, I
She
can't hear.
arrived- It was a lady from Wales, had driven all the way from North Wales, and it had
Oh, yes.
snowed, and she was late, consequently. And
Yeah.
then, because I enjoyed that so much, I booked up a day, and you taught my brother and I how to make piccalilli.
Yeah.
And I've made it ever since, every year.
It's a lovely recipe, isn't it? I was just thinking a lot of people put all sorts of other things in, and I'm sure they're absolutely lovely. But I just make it that same way all the time. Perhaps I ought to be a bit more.
I like it with the cucumber and the beans and onions, and some people put carrot in, which I don't like.
Yes, and peppers and things like that. And I'm not a huge fan. I find peppers overwhelm everything. You know, if you're not careful, everything tastes of peppers. But no, I like the mixture, and of course it deals with a sort of seasonal glut very effectively. So
Yes, it's nice when you've got friends who have allotments and things, and they
that's right.
give,
Yeah.
give you stuff.
Right.
But after doing the mincemeat course,
Yeah.
I'd been saving peel for some time because I've got a recipe for making marmalade with peel, and I had to go at doing your making your own peel, and it was very successful, very nice.
Oh, right, good.
Yes,
Excellent.
I think I've actually got some here, which is
It's a bit addictive.
camera. That's it.
Once you start eating it.
Right, there it is. It's my peel.
I can't see you. Trev's coming.
Is it candied, the peel?
Yes, it is. It's I don't know if you can. It's not particularly.
Oh, there you are. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, it's quite
very nice.
moorish. Once you start eating it, if you eat it as a sort of sweetmeat, it's
It's a bit moorish.
it is. It's strange. I mean, you offer it to people and they say, "Really?" You know, and they look at you like you're mad. You know, but they're soon dipping in. It's not too difficult to make. It's just because it goes on for days, but only a few minutes each day. It sort of seems to take a long time. Right, how are we doing, team? You nearly there? You're all right, Alicia? Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm good. Ready?
Good. And Helen, yeah, you're all right. Good. So we've got our pear and our shred and our cranberries. I'm going to need my sugar next, which is 225 grams. Now, I read the other day, you know, when you open a packet of sugar, however careful you are, a bit falls out. Apparently, Mr. Tate, I think it was, of Tate and Lyle, developed a machine that they fill the bags and then it adds a little bit on the top to annoy housewives or cooks. So every time you open the bag, there's always this little pile of sugar which falls everywhere. And he just enjoyed the thought that everyone had to keep cleaning up their bags off. But why they've left it like that, because he's long gone. So here we
Just
go.
a man.
Sugar everywhere. Never mind. So 225 grams, confidently pouring it from this used bag. Ugh, way too much. Take that out. There we are, nearly there. So, the way, sugar and all. So put your sugar in. Give it a bit of a stir. And then we're going to do our vinegar. Break that sugar up a bit. Now to do the vinegar, you need to squeeze the juice from your orange.
Rosie,
Pardon?
sorry, 1 second. Did you double your sugar?
I didn't. You're right. I'll put some more in. Let me wash my hands.
Is that the first one surprise?
Yeah.
This week's deliberate mistake. What do they win?
But there's always one. I'll put one in just to see if you're all listening.
Obviously.
Right, I'm in and taking that out either. Oh dear. Mary Berry doesn't have this problem. Oh, come on. There we go. Ooh, gosh, that's heavy. Right, now then we're going to do our juice. So you need to squeeze your orange juice, cut the orange across the middle, not up and down, but across the middle. Be as thorough as you can be. That one, and pour the juice into a jug. And that one as well. Get any pips in there. And then you need to make the juice up to 200 mils if you're doing one recipe's worth, or 400 mils if you're doing two. I've got my vinegar.
Rosie, in the recipe it says 200 millilitres, and then in the instructions it says 300 millilitres.
In
In the written recipe, the method.
that's because you add, it's reckoning that there'll be 100 mils of orange juice already, so make it up to 300, yeah, or 300 and 600 then for double. Quite right. Now where's my 600? Right.
Sorry, Rosie. So are we doing 300 of orange
We're doing
juice?
one recipe, so you make it up to 300 in total
300.
with your orange juice.
But just 300 of orange juice, or 300?
Put your orange juice into a jug
Yeah.
and add your vinegar to make it up to 300 mils.
So 100 mils of vinegar.
200.
Well, whatever, if you measure your orange juice and then just pour in the vinegar to make the whole level up to 300.
Okay. Okay.
So
Cool.
all oranges will be different. So
Yeah,
you
that's
end
true.
up with 300 mils of orangey vinegar. Okay.
If I've got extra cranberries, should I do more liquid or not? Should I just
Probably
stick?
not. No, it'll probably be fine with your pears and everything. You don't want it too wet. And then pour that mixture into the pan with everything else. That goes in. We need the salt. 2 teaspoonfuls of salt. I think I'll need 4. And Alicia will need 4. And then give it a good mix. To dissolve the sugar and the salt. And now you can turn the heat up and the fun starts because all the cranberries start to pop. It's a bit like making popcorn, only not quite as violent. Which is in some ways good, in other ways a bit of a shame. Right, question. How many 8-ounce jars does one weigh for the 450 grams? 450 grams is a pound jar, so you'll need about 2 half-pound jars, 2 8-ounce jars, or 2 20-gram, roughly. I mean, I can't say exactly because it depends on how big his pears were, but you'll need 2 to 3 8-ounce jars for this if you're making the recipe, one amount of the recipe. People making double will need extra. Clear up a bit. We've made a mess, of course. There we are. That's better.
Rose, is the salt kind of like preserving critical, or if I like it less salty, can I add slightly less salt, or is that?
Yes, you can. It's not critical for the preservation. You've got the vinegar, you've got the sugar. It just evens out the overall flavour.
Okay, thank you.
So let's get this heat up and get them popping. You don't want, well, I say you don't want, you can do whatever you want to do, but I like to leave some of them whole in the, in the mix, and let some of them pop, give a sort of bit more of a pulpy mix. So just, you don't have to kind of religiously let every cranberry pop. But they look a glorious colour. And they smell fantastic, don't they, when they're cooking this mixture. The ones that are cooking will be able to, and if some of you make it later, you'll see what I mean. But all of a sudden, you'll start to hear them bursting, I hope. I'm going to get my jars out. Waiting for that.
Just looks like Christmas in a pan.
We'll be making a cordial in the Christmas gift workshop, and you can take that sort of principle. You should be able to make your own cranberry juice, really, in a similar way, I would have thought, if you want to actually know what you're drinking. I mean, I think for Tesco's to be selling a product with no ingredients listed at all is shameful, if not illegal. I'm not sure how cranberry juice is defined, whether it's defined as a food, because things that aren't food don't have to have ingredients, things like wine. Now there's all sorts of things that are put into wine, depending on where they're made and so on. but it's not a requirement that it's listed. I think it should be, but that's another subject. But whether cranberry juice is looked on as being a food or not, I don't know. Otherwise, I don't see how they can get away with it, to be honest. But then people get away with all sorts of things these days. Can you hear it? Yeah, camera's steamed up now. It's the most glorious colour. It's and all those little shreds of orange peel will soften in the vinegar and so on. They won't be like just eating raw orange peel. It's all rather delicious together. So don't be frightened of doing that. It's you right, Alicia?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
Good. Okay. We're sort of working out the tempo now, aren't we, of how long it takes and allowing enough time, not rushing it.
I can hear them popping.
Can you? Mine are just starting. I think because mine were frozen in the first place, they've taken a bit longer, but
Couldn't find any frozen ones anywhere. My husband luckily found some fresh ones this morning.
yeah, well, I knew they should be starting to come in. So even if you couldn't get them tonight, you would be able to get them in the next week because the harvest is quite reliable. You know, it's I expect there'll be pockets of people now all over the country going out with just supermarket baskets full of cranberries that they're going to stash away in their freezers. When I do this, though, I just look at them and think about that journey they've had, you know, being combed out of the bushes straight into the river and then corralled and dragged down to the processing plant. And it's quite extraordinary that that is still what they do. And all these people in sort of waders up to their chins, you know, and big boots and everything. It's quite astonishing when it's such a big harvest and so widespread. You know, the distribution is so widespread. It's amazing that it all starts on the banks of the rivers in Canada and North America. I think it's incredible, really, in this day and age. It still happens exactly the same as it's always done. Better than popping cranberries.
Rosie, is yours on a really high heat? Because mine's not doing anything at all at the moment.
Yeah, no, mine's on the highest heat. It's quite wet, so you won't burn it. So
Okay, maybe I'll turn it up a bit.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not really popping yet.
I know. Well, it hasn't got a high sugar content, and it's got enough liquid for it not to burn, unless you go off and left it for about half an hour or something. But
Rosie, does it matter what kind of port you put in?
no,
Okay.
you don't have to put any in if you don't want to. I just find it sort of rounds it off nicely, and it don't, you know, marginally it would help it to keep, but that's not the reason. It's for flavour and
No, if that's the reason I'm making it, for the port.
it's sort of a touch of luxury, if you like. So we're boiling away. Right. Some of mine are popping, they're all swollen up, but they're not actually popping yet. But,
Mine are popping, but it's not boiling.
We've got all variations. But I think the others can see the glorious colour. And I can't tell you the smell. It's absolutely fabulous. It's worth doing it just for that, you know. But I think to put a dish of that on the table at Christmas, even if it's with cold meats after Christmas, it's delicious in itself. And it's so much nicer than just opening a jar of bulk cranberry relish, which is all a bit uniform, isn't it? It's all just it's just red and a bit sort of jellyish. This isn't supposed to set. It's not like that. It will still be quite a lot of liquid in it. That's fine. It's not going to be thick like a chutney or set like a jam. I'm going to give this a few more minutes. You can leave yours as long as you want to. I have to sort of keep an eye on the clock slightly. But you can jar up after we finish. But a few more minutes. And the pears haven't cut, they're slightly pink, but you can still see there's pear in there. I'm not going to look over it too much because if they splatter, it's going to be painful. I'm going to take mine off, but you can leave yours a bit longer if you need to, Freya. It won't matter. I'll give that a good stir. And what will happen, as with most of these sorts of things, like the chutneys, it might look a bit runny and wet now, but it will. The fruit will take in all the juices in the jar. So I should put my port in now. You don't need to be scientific about it. You can just put a good splosh in to have some added flavour. Give that a bit of a stir. Beautiful colour. Yeah. And then I'm going to put some in the jars for you to see. Probably cook it for about another 5 minutes if I was, you know, doing it not against the clock. It's the same deal. Fill the jar right to the top. Plus my spoon. Gently push some down, not too hard, otherwise it will all overflow. And there, and just even into another couple in. There it is. You pop on your lid straight away. You can see then it's all the bits of
Now
pear.
it's on top, finally.
Sorry? The glorious colour. The thing is to also you can make it at any time in the year, or you can keep it for as long as you want to. And have it with other things. You don't have to just have it at Christmas or with Christmas dinner or you know, Boxing Day or something. So I need to double the cooking time. What if I'm making double? No, just as I say, this one could probably have done with another 5 minutes, but I don't want to run out of time. So you could cook it down for just a little bit longer if you want to. It's fine. What I do, it is great to use also. You know, I made the little mince pies in the squares of pastry on the mincemeat class. It's just literally squares of pastry in like a little muffin tin, and then that's the mincemeat, and then it's just a mouthful of mince pie rather than all the pastry and sugar going everywhere and, you know, all that business. You can sort of eat them standing up at a party or anything like that. But this is great. I do the same thing. I make the pastry squares. I cut little squares of brie or camembert and put in the middle. Not very much, just a little piece, about 2 centimetres square, and then bake them. And then when they come out of the oven, you can spoon on some cranberry relish on the top. I also make them with tapenade, which is an olive base. It's not cooked at all. It's chopped olives and garlic and oil and herbs and lemon zest, seasoning, and then I put that on top of the brie, and they're nice to hand round just as a mouthful, as like a canapé, really, I suppose, if I'm being posh. But you need to put. No, I don't. If you're using jars with lids, Rona, you don't need to use the wax disc. Wax discs are a moisture barrier that you use with cellophane covers. It just stops the contents drying out or moisture getting in, or it helps to. It doesn't stop it. If you're using lids, you fill the jar right to the top. You don't leave any gaps at all. Put the lid on straight away, and then as the contents cool, they'll shrink. You'll have a gap left at the top, which is a vacuum, and nothing should be able to grow in that vacuum. So it's actually sort of detrimental to use wax disc and a lid, because as it's cooling, moisture can gather under the wax disc and cause problems. So just fill the jars right to the top and put the lid on, and then it should keep like that in its vacuum seal. You could keep it for years actually, but I'll tell you a year, which is what I'm supposed to tell you. That Trev will testify that we regularly eat things that are, you know, 5, 6, 7 years old or more, because it's an occupational hazard of doing what I do. I've always got jars of preserves around, far too many. So it will keep fine like that, and it won't spoil. And even when you, well, with the relish, I would keep it in the fridge, but with most things, like jams and chutneys with a high sugar content, you can keep on the shelf. You don't necessarily need to refrigerate them.
So with jams, etc., you do the same thing. You don't need, if you put it in a jar with a lid, you don't need the paper.
No.
Oh, I didn't know that. Thank you.
No. It's a bit of a hangover from the jam pot covers that we used to have with the cellophane, but I know a lot of people still like to use them, but the trouble with it is that the cellophane is porous. So if you keep the jars anywhere where moisture is around, moisture can get in through the cellophane and spoil the jam. You'll get mold and yeast will be able to proliferate. Equally, if it's in a very dry, hot atmosphere, it can dry out. I know years ago when I was a girl, which is almost not able to be remembered, our jam sometimes dried out and shrunk away from the sides of the jar and had like a little pat on it, which was hard. And that's because it's dried out and the moisture's got out of the jam. So the very best way to do is to keep them with the lids on. You can save jars. I absolutely don't have a problem with you saving jars, but I would say always try and have new lids, or if you're using it at home, you can get away with using the lids 2, maybe 3 times. but you will have to keep the lids for the right thing. So you won't want to put your chutney lids on your marmalade because you will get the crossover of flavours. We now sell a sample kit of jar lid sizes, or we've got a free lid gauge to size the lids so that you can easily buy new ones.
And can I ask a question, please, Rosie?
Yeah.
Is there any preserves, like say jams, chutneys, whatever, where you can use a jar with a plastic lid?
I think screw top lids like coffee jars and things don't necessarily give a true seal, do they?
It won't seal, and they will, again, you'll get flavour from it. Coffee jars are a bit of a nightmare unless you're making a coffee flavoured preserve.
Oh no, the reason I was asking is someone recently actually gave me about 50 jars, and they've all got plastic lids on them, but they're the cutest little jars. I can show you actually.
Yeah.
They're the cutest little jar.
Can't see it.
Right.
But they've got a plastic lid, and I'm like, what do I do with them?
The only thing I can think of off the top of my head is pickles. If you've got like pickled onions or something like that, or pickled cornichon, you know, the little cucumbers, anything that doesn't need heat. But I'd worry about the plastic with the heat involved, because your jars will be hot when you put the product in, and then you'll be sealing it hot. And also you've got to worry about leaching out of the plastic. What was in the jar before? Do you know?
I don't know actually. And when I got it, it had no smell, no odor, no nothing.
Is the jar, is it a screw top or is it a pop-off?
It's a screw top, not a lug. It's a screw top.
Oh no, because I've
I'm
got some.
I'm lying. It's not a screw top. It's a lug lid. I just noticed that.
Yeah.
It's a what?
It's the one. It's not a screw.
A lug lid is like these, where you just twist it on a bit. A screw top is where you turn it till it's tight. So
Yeah, so I've put one.
It might be honey jars. It might be peanut butter or something. No, I'd say you're pretty okay with pickles, you know, cold vinegar pickles, except you've got to be careful that their vinegar is safe, you know.
I've had these jars which had yogurt in them, and I get them in Ireland, and they're really delicious yogurt, and they've got a plastic flick off top, rubberized plastic flick off top.
Yes.
You know, and I use that mint jelly.
Yeah.
So it's an ideal size because it's only 4 ounces, is it? Less than that too.
Yeah, probably.
It's ideal to give to somebody because it's perfect amount for a meal when somebody's having, and it seems to last really well, and it goes into it seals properly because this dips down when it's
yeah, when you're fine. I would try 1 or 2 of them, Alicia. Don't go and bake a big batch, but just try 1 or 2. When you're making something else, put it in and see what happens.
Okay.
If it's got a lug top, you could try a lid on there, because I think you've got a whole different lot, didn't you? So
well, I'm waiting for my delivery of all the lids. I've just ordered every size that you have.
I know. I was there picking them all. But try them and see. It may be a what do you call it, custom-made one that nothing will fit, but you might be lucky. I'd be happy if you put a proper lid on it if you can, because they are acid proof with the vinegar, and they're also with oil and things like that. The oil can take it with cheaper kind of, unless you know what the lid is, the oil can take a contaminant chemical out of the actual lid and put it into the pickle, which is a bit annoying. So I forget what it is. It's BPA or something, isn't it? It's got some great big long name, and so you have to get lids which ours are, which are, you know, safe for all of that. But That's what I would say. Just make sure your lids are in good condition. Don't use them if they're rusty or dented and all that sort of thing. And then you can just reuse your jars over and over and over again. And there isn't a problem with that at all. I have to have new lids and new jars because I sell things. So, and if you're doing the same, I would get into the habit of doing that because you don't want to be caught out by training standards if they ever manage to make any visits to anybody in the future. They've slightly gone underground at the moment until Brexit sorts itself out. But you get into the habit of, you don't want to go to this effort and expense of the ingredients and all the rest of it, and then put it in something that's going to spoil it. It's a shame, it's a few pence for a lid, and it's worthwhile investing in them, really. How are we doing? Have we got any more? Oh, there's a riot downstairs, Jane, so she's had to go and sort them out. That's okay. And Helen's asked if all the berries have to pop. No, they don't. You just want a few of them so that it gets a nice texture. And they will collapse as they cool. They'll sort of shrink down and everything else. So,
Nice.
what?
No one's holding up the jam.
Oh yeah, look, they're pretty jars. Are they mason ones or are they?
Yeah, no, they're full.
Oh, ball ones, yeah. I love them.
Yeah, they were a gift. Somebody done some jam and had them left over, so yes, I thought I have
Lucky
those.
you. I've been trying to buy them to put onto the website, but no, nothing's doing.
They're very, very pretty. They're in my hampers for my Christmas.
I think we've got Liz in Aberdeen. Does it thicken? No, it doesn't. But it will absorb some of the liquid. Will go back into the.
Very tart.
Yeah. Well, when you're eating it with cheese or meat, it evens out. It's. You can always add more sugar if you want to, but I know how everybody feels about it these days, really. And it depends on the fruit, of course. Which what they're like. But now, as I was saying before, I make them into sort of canapes. They're very nice to sort of hand around, and you can eat it at Christmas, or you can use it in things like baguettes or sandwiches during the year. With cheese or especially the soft cheeses. I think it goes particularly well. But have a look around at some other recipes. I haven't actually got any more on my recipe site, but I have made a cranberry chutney, which has got a lot more ingredients in it, as chutneys tend to have. So you don't just have to make the relish. You can use the cranberries for as an ingredient in a chutney like that. And now you can make a jelly or a jam with them, but personally, I find it a bit tart and a bit seedy. I think for a jam, I prefer not to do that. In that it's I think it's much more pleasant like this. But that's good. We haven't got any more questions. I just wanted to talk about next week a little bit, which is the marmalade making class. We won't be able to do a cook along because I'm going to have 2 or 3. Here's one I've already done once because it's a much longer time for cooking, as Liz will attest to. And so it needs to be, I'd much prefer you to watch and maybe make notes, although there will be a comprehensive recipe and obviously you've got the recording. But and then just see what happens all the way through, because you wouldn't be able to, I mean, if we cooked it from start to finish, it would be about 2.5 hours probably, which is too long really for everybody. So by all means, start looking out the end of December really for Seville oranges if you want to make the traditional marmalade, but you can also use the recipe we're going to do for any other kind of citrus fruit marmalade. So it's worth seeing and then making, because I think it seems an awful faff making marmalade, but for most families, requirements, you would only make it once a year, maybe. Depends how much marmalade you eat, but most people don't eat marmalade every day like they used to. So I think to make one big batch for the family for the whole year, it's just one of those things that it comes around at that time of the year, and it's just a great thing to sort of sink into and do, and it's done. People like me who have to make it all the time, and that's another scenario. But if you're making it for yourself, and I think once you have made it and you have eaten it, you never want to eat shop or marmalade ever again. I mean, it is just so different, and in flavour and complexity. It's not just a sugary gel with bits of peel in it. Unless you buy a very, very good one from sort of Tiptree or somewhere like that. I think it's like, you know, when you're in a hotel or something, you get the little packet of, it's just vile, really. I'm sorry, but it is. And I think this will just transform how you think about it. So it's worth persevering with and having a go with, and you know, I'm sure you won't regret it anyway. So has anyone got any other questions? I hope some of you, there's only about 5 signed up for the marmalade, but I hope some others will have a think and join in, because it's an opportunity.
I'm intending to do the marmalade. I want to come to the marmalade one. It's just, I think when I first tried to sign up, it wasn't open at the time, no. and then I have been a bit busy recently.
We couldn't open it. You can't open it until you've got the emails done the other side.
Of course.
Because that's all automatic. As people join, they get the response.
Yes. Yeah.
And we couldn't do that because I hadn't finished the recipe. I have got the recipe in all sorts of forms,
right,
but not like this. So I had to rewrite it, and with everything else, it just takes ages. And then Trev has to then rewrite it again because I haven't set it out properly or something. And then it has to be produced and the email's done, and you can't open and then we couldn't open the subsequent workshops until the log jam of the marmalade was done. But anyway, you know, I'm sure we'll all get into the rhythm of this if we carry on next year. I hope it'll all be seamless, and but that's all part of it. You know.
Well, I'm looking forward to that. I like marmalade.
Yes. Well, I think
very good. It's very good marmalade. It's excellent marmalade.
Yeah. Well,
if we want to do the marmalade,
you like this one, you know. Sorry, Roma?
If we want to join the marmalade course, do we just log into?
Yeah, just go on. It's open now. You can just go and click on it.
Okay.
Here, Trev's going to put the link up for you to make it easy.
Okay, lovely. Thank you.
And the others are open as well. I think the Christmas one will be quite fun. And then we've got the red cabbage chutney, which is much nicer than it sounds. And finally, the lemon curd. Yeah. So and then it must be Christmas, unbelievably. I don't feel at all Christmassy at all. But yes, he's put the marmalade link for you there, so you can just click onto it. So, sorry?
There was a question, does it have to go in the fridge? Alicia was asking. No?
Helen was asking if the relish. No, it doesn't need to go in the fridge. I think what will happen is as soon as you open it, you'll probably use most of it, but it will be fine like it is. You know, as with all properly made preserves, the only thing you need to keep in the fridge for sure is lemon curd, and that is because it's not cooked at a high enough temperature and it has fresh eggs in it. And it's not cooked at a high enough temperature to kill any bugs in it, or in the eggs. But you can't cook at a very high temperature, otherwise you have lemon flavoured scrambled eggs. So, you know, lemon curd, then who doesn't eat it all anyway? You know, I mean, it's. I always used to make it when my children were young, and it would be in the fridge, and I'd know they found it because there would be a finger line through it. You know, they wouldn't bother with toast; they just stick their fingers in. So yeah, that's the only thing really that has to go in the fridge, is things that aren't cooked to these sorts of temperatures. So oh, you've already tasted it, have you, Freya? Where's she gone? Oh yeah, there she is. You've already tasted it.
Yeah, I think everyone's in for a treat. It's absolutely delicious.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it is tart, but it's really delicious.
Yeah, but around some turkey or cheese or something, you know, it's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
And it will mellow again. You know, all these things when they're freshly made, they won't harm you, but they're not. They need to just mellow a bit, and all the edges knocked off of them. But okay, that's it for this week. Thank you very much for all your donations. I am very grateful, because I may make it look easy, I don't know, but it is actually quite a workup to sort of do this and keep all the jar business going as well. But I am loving doing it, so I'm not thinking.
Gingerbread donuts.
Sorry?
50p.
Sorry, who was that?
Back.
Somebody asked me a question. But anyway, I'll see some of you next week. Oh, there is another message, but I can't move the screen down, so can you
I'll probably see you for the red cabbage one.
Yes, yeah. No, that's my own recipe, and only because I can't stand. It's not that I can't stand them. I can't eat pickled things. I find it just, I've got the sort of stomach that just sort of shrinks at the thought of it. You know, I find it too acidic, too unpleasant. So I thought there's got to be something else to do with all these red cabbages than just put them in vinegar. So it's got beetroot, it's got balsamic vinegar, and it's got those soft prunes in it, and it ends up glossy and dark and absolutely delicious. It's more of a chutney than, you know, red cabbage. Pickled red cabbage.
Yeah, taste every individual.
Oh, wow, you really all.
Sounds delicious.
Okay. Thank you for coming, and
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye. Enjoy.
Bye.
Bye-bye.